And I'm going to come at this from a slightly different angle, pragmatic advice for senior leaders. But the simple truth of the matter is technology doesn't give you an advantage. Technology is just an enabler, building on something that David said. It's the combination of three areas: people, process, and technology. Now, you might find that slightly odd coming from somebody that is an IT professional, but how can I say that? Well, with the adoption of cloud, the simple truth is, whether you are a sole practitioner or you are the largest professional service firm in the world, you all have access to the same level of technology. Simple illustration, just to make that point, if I take something like Office 365, £30 a month, you get access to probably over 100 different applications. Most firms will use 3 or 4 of those, which takes you on to another point of, how am I getting value out of my budget? Well, what are those other 97 applications? I think some of the other areas like artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, Microsoft launches 1,500 different applications a year. Gartner referred to all of that as sort of the hyper cycle. So it takes about 2 to 10 years for some of this very emerging tech to actually become a product. So ChatGPT sounds really interesting, but it'll probably take anywhere between 2 and 10 years before that's productized and firms can actually consume it without having to build technology. And that's quite a fundamental aspect for any professional service firm. Do you want to be buying technology and delivering a competitive advantage, or do you want to try and build it? And if you're going to build it, you are essentially becoming a software firm as well. But what can be done to deliver a bit of an edge with your technology? Well, there's 3 areas that you have to focus on. It's cyclic, and some of the most richest organizations in the world go around this cycle in hours. They don't measure in days, months, or years. They're measuring in hours. So what are those 3 items that we have to do very well? Well, it's measure, analyze, and then change. So let me just put a bit of meat on the bones. To measure something, you have to have data. Well, professional services firms do have a huge amount of wealth of data. Might not be very exciting data, but you certainly have a lot of data and you can extract that out of your systems. If you haven't got that, you're starting from a point of guessing. That's never great when you're signing off large budgets. Once you've got your data, you need to do some analysis of that, and there's lots of tools and ways to go around that. If you want some interesting reads, look at something like survivor bias around data analysis, etc. And then the part that becomes absolutely fundamental to all of this is change. There is no point getting the data, analyzing it, but then having a culture where where you are accepting of zero change in an organization. And I see this time and time again. Firms spend many thousands on technology, but they don't deliver the training and they don't enforce change in an organization. So broadly, people are still working the same way that they were working 10 years ago, yet the technology has moved on. So what happens when it kind of goes wrong? Well, sadly, there's many times I walk into firms, they've spent a lot on some technology because somebody in a room thought, this is going to be fantastic. This is game-changing technology. I think this will work for our firm. So the salesman does a bit of a great number. They convince them that they need this for the whole firm. So let's go firm-wide. Let's put a 3-year term on this. And then we roll it out. It's cloud-based, so it's available next week. We send an email to the whole firm saying, from tomorrow, we're going to use this technology. And what happens is it falls flat on its face because they haven't understood where their starting position is. So the data, they haven't analyzed it to understand what needs to happen. And then they haven't followed that through and sort of thought about the culture and change aspect of the firm. It's a lot.